Hello and welcome to the DJ Force 10 in Conversation podcast, episode 113. Can you believe it? We're still going on with the daily release of the podcast, so thank you for downloading yesterday's or even streaming it. And the day before, I spoke to Chris from Acid Mammoth, and yesterday I spoke to the ladies in Gold, Frankincense and Myrrh. Both bands fantastic in their own rights, and they're just great. And even today's guest, their band is great. It's Coldbones, instrumental band out of Kent, England. We talk about a lot of stuff, including their new album, The Cataclysm, which is out in a couple of weeks, so keep your ears out for that. If you dig what you hear in the actual show here, go check out their music, or even do that right now. I don't care. Stop this podcast, go onto your streaming service, go listen to Collapse. It's their brand new single from the album. Last year they released a cover of Kate Bush, Running Up That Hill. Even that was great. It was like, and they're an instrumental band. It's crazy. But their previous albums and stuff like that, go listen to it. If you like that kind of stuff, please do. Or even if you don't, you want to try something else, go listen to them. Go listen to all the bands I'm speaking to, because that's why I'm doing this. So you guys can discover these people and get something new out of it. But yeah, I hope everyone's well. I'm doing all right in this sort of in these pandemic times. It's still a little bit strange. Still trying to sort of figure some things out. Having to venture out occasionally to go get food and stuff like that, which we'll have to do for the family and whatnot. But it is weird out there, and please, people, follow the rules. Social distancing, all that kind of stuff. It's there for a reason. We want to get over this as quickly as possible. Keep away, wash your hands, whatever else they're telling us to do, really. But utmost, get in contact with people. That is something that I'm trying to, like, this is why I'm doing this as well. Get in touch with people. Go call some relatives you haven't heard from in a while. See if they're all right. Call an old friend. I know most people are doing that, but the ones that haven't really thought about it or are a bit too scared, just throw them a message on Facebook or whatever social media platform you're on. Just throw them a message. It's important just to check if people are okay, because you might get someone come back and say, no, I'm not. And then, you call them up and you have a chat, you catch up, and that helps. That really does help. I'm quite fortunate. I've been keeping in touch with people, and it is helping. It is one of the things that is helping me right now. So please do that. In the meantime, if you haven't already gone away and checked out their music, I'm going to bring you Nick right now from Coldbones. Enjoy. Welcome, Nick from Coldbones, the show. Welcome.
Thanks very much, mate. Yeah, it's good to be on.
No worries at all. So how are you doing today?
Yeah, all good. We released the pre-orders for the album, so they're all going out nicely. So got a few bits to start out with that, which is keeping my boredom a bit less than usual, I guess. But other than that, yeah, all good. It's awesome. Quite sunny, so been outside a little bit. Well, in the garden rather than out, but yeah. Other than that, all good.
Yeah, I ventured out today. I went shopping, and it was weird.
Oh, nice.
So,
yeah, not too long, I hope.
No, it was fine getting in and out. It was just very quiet, and everyone kind of keeping away from each other.
Yeah, it's a really odd time, isn't it? Just to be a person, I guess, in the UK.
Yeah.
Well, anywhere
at the moment. Yeah, it's crazy. So, but yeah, we're here to talk about your band and their impending album and whatnot.
Yes.
But first of all, I just want to get a bit of history on you guys, because I've only recently found out about you. I just want to just give me the lowdown on where you guys are from and what you've done since
what we've been up to. Yeah. So we're from a town called Margate in Kent, which is slowly becoming a bit more known by people.
Yep.
But yeah, so we're from Margate. Always lived down here, us three, and we've always kind of been in bands together. But Coldbones is the first proper project that we've really put our teeth into. Okay. Started off with just Geordie and Max, the other two members, and our old drummer, a guy called Joe, who's now in the band. He was in a band called Muskets, but I think they're broken up now, I guess. But anyway, yeah, so I originally just did all the videos and the visuals for the band. And after Joe left, I stepped in on bass, Max moved to drums, and then we kind of went full force from there. So at that point, we already had EP Distance out.
Yep.
And and then from that we started to work towards our debut album, which is Where It All Began, which came out a couple of years ago now. And and then literally since that's been out, we've been working hard on this record. I mean, literally from the day that we released that last album, we started writing.
Yeah.
And now it's finally come, 2 years later that it's going to be released in a couple of weeks. So
cool.
Yeah. So it's been a pretty intense couple of years, especially because of how, I mean, I won't go too deep into the album yet, but I mean, because it's a conceptual album, there's a lot more to it than just writing songs. There's writing songs to the concept and then slowly kind of building the concept deeper depending on what sort of stuff we're writing as well. And obviously all the visuals were super important as well. So it's been a pretty hectic couple of years, but we've loved every second of it. So, and that brings us up to now.
Excellent. So where do you guys get your, I suppose, influences from? Because you are an instrumental group. And I've always had a sort of like, not a fascination, but I've always liked like ambient groups and instrumental groups. Public service broadcast, for instance, to go sort of a bit more mainstream, but you've got Cult of Luna, Isis, Neurosis, sort of on the heavier side of things, because I was raised on various music, but one of them was The Shadows, and they were, classically a instrumental band, but with like, you got a lot of the kind of like vocal lines done with the guitars and whatnot. But I was just wondering where your guys sort of like, your influences lie, because you're not as, sort of dark, if you will. I'm only going off your first album here, but that kind of like heavy darkness that Isis sort of brought across and Cult of Luna kind of bring across. You kind of have a bit more,
Yeah, like definitely the first release, and then in the second release as well. I guess it's a bit more tame and a bit more calm, I guess, other than a few songs. But I mean, to be honest, like when the band first started, and even for myself when I started to do visuals for the band, none of us had really listened to instrumental music. I know the Coldbones as a project started as an instrumental band because none of us could sing, or none of the guys could sing anyway. And the guys just started to write music like that. And then from there started to discover the whole instrumental post-rock scene. Bands like Mogwai, Russian Circles, Tides of Man being the main one, I think.
Yeah.
The record Young and Courageous was a massive influence on especially the Distance EP. So we kind of discovered the scene as the music was being created, I guess. And for myself as well, I remember when the guys came to me saying, "Oh, we've been writing these songs," and when I realised they weren't vocals, at first I was a bit kind of put off by that and just didn't really understand it. And then very quickly started to realise how big the scene was, and very much started to enjoy, what the scene was as well. Like I said, notably Tides of Man, that record, I think really hit us all quite hard of how incredible instrumental music can be. And we're also lucky enough to support them a couple of years ago as well, and they're really lovely guys. Everything they've released we love.
Amazing.
But in terms of influence, I'd definitely say it was more of that. But in terms of influence before that, I mean, we're all kind of, I guess, metalheads at heart. Like we all grew up listening to every band that Roadrunner records would release, Trivium, Slipknot, bands like that.
Yep, same here.
And and it's, from that, I think there's a lot of that in the new album. There's a lot more riffs. I think our songs have always been a little bit closer to that sort of world, in the sense that they're much shorter songs. Like we haven't really written a lot of long, like cliche post-rock songs, if you know what I mean, other than a couple, I guess. But we've always been drawn to shorter, more in-your-face songs, and I think that's where, those older kind of metalcore songs, kind of show their influence. But I think with the new album especially, people are going to see a much darker side to us. And even we've taken a lot of influence from, I guess, even bands like Rammstein, where they've got that industrial theatrical side. And we've really taken that on board, especially it being a concept album. We've always quite liked being a little bit theatrical on stage. But we're taking that to the next level now, which I won't give away too much. I think people will have to come and see us live to experience that, I guess.
Awesome.
But so, and even small things like when we first started to write the album, we all love listening to Him for some reason. It was quite random, but a lot of elements of that, like some acoustic parts that we really took influence from, and just the more melodic side, we took a lot from that as well. So it's quite a range, but we definitely don't limit ourselves to what we're influenced by.
No, that's that's awesome. I mean, listening to the music, I went through well, I went through your last album, and the new single as well you've got out at the moment. But it's very, like you say, they are on the well, for that type of music, on the short side. That was one thing I was actually going to bring up, but it's kind of refreshing because you can kind of get you get the same feeling from your music. As I do from like the sort of bigger, sort of more, I say bigger, longer pieces that a lot of these bands do. Like I've had, I've listened to loads of stuff, but just like songs that go on for like 12 minutes, which is absolutely fine, and I can sit there and listen to it. But you guys, you've got that kind of like, it's in a more sort of like, not manageable, this is not the right word.
I think,
it's in a nicer package, if you will,
Yeah, I think there's one nice thing that we've heard back from people, especially because I think even a lot of our friends in the kind of scene we're stepping into, there's a lot of people that are slowly getting into it now. And because I think post-rock is massively becoming a bit more mainstream recently. And a lot of the time, someone will go to listen to a song and it'll be 8 minutes and instantly it's kind of like, there's like a lot to try and commit to. When you're first stepping into something that you're not too sure whether you're going to like or not.
Yeah.
So we've always kind of thrived off that a bit, knowing that we could be somewhat a bridge between the mainstream and post-rock, I guess.
Yep.
Like I said, it may be a bit more accessible for people. And we always, not that we write to sound like any other band, but we always try and make sure that we've got some songs that are heavy and some songs that are a bit more chilled out. So we kind of, can be accessible to a lot of people rather than just being one type of band, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think you mentioned them before, like I mentioned a few bands I was into, but Mugwai, you hit the nail on the head with that one. I can't believe I missed that one out. But they're an absolute fantastic live band as well.
They've got some post-rock.
They are indeed. And Animals as Leaders as well are another one that I've forgot to mention as well. I saw them live last year and they were magnificent. Like, just, it's more the musicianship, I think, on that front, but it's, their music's good as well. But I was going to say, with your sound as well, it does apply itself to very, sort of like, video games or, movie sort of soundtrack as well. So you kind of have that, like, music storytelling, if you will. It really does, kind of paint a picture. Especially in my mind, listening to it, was that something you guys set out to do initially? Kind of like, so.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, we've always really been into soundtracks and stuff like that. Especially Max, our drummer, he's a massive soundtrack fan, and I think, to be honest, the way we're all talking now, especially moving into the future as well, I think that's probably more of a route that we're going to move down, and looking very much more into the visuals and how we can write to visuals. Like at the moment, it's very much that we write the song and then we'll think of the visuals after that.
Yeah.
And especially with myself, because I shoot all our music videos, I started off not writing the music, while with Where It All Began and the Cataclysm, I've been doing the visuals for it, and it's very much been collaborative between me, Max, and Geordie of how we want to come across conceptually and visually. I think it's just such an important thing, because it's quite tough sometimes to give across, I guess, like a mood or a feeling or like a story with a song. And we've always been so committed to that, that I think with our visuals, we always try and make some sort of story, and not necessarily in a way that it's a specific thing that people watch it and go, oh, right, that's that, which is sometimes how a band will be with lyrics. It's very obviously what someone's writing about.
Yeah.
Well, especially with our video Lost, I think the main one, was we had a lot of people come to us and say, it's really interesting. Like, we really like the video and could really connect to it because of this, this, and this. And to us, we're like, to be honest, we didn't really have that in mind, but it's amazing that you've found that sort of meaning within the video and the song that we wouldn't have ever thought of.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of open to interpretation. And I think we love that side of writing this kind of music because everyone kind of finds their own meaning within it, which is, I think it's really, really cool.
Yeah, it gives people like a chance to explore like the music as such, if you will. Like, obviously, when you've got a lyricist or when you've got words in the song, it really does, like, it keeps you on a track, if you will.
Yeah.
Whereas your style of music, it does take you off. It's like to like liken it to video games. You've got like an open world game, and then you've got a game on rails, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's more fun to create your own story rather than to, kind of experience someone else's, I guess. But I think also, like, going back to the new album, it's kind of the other way with that, where we we had this concept that, or I think, Max thought of this concept of this, end of the world sort of cataclysm.
Yeah.
And from that, we just thought it'd be such an amazing experience to be able to write something to that, which kind of goes back to when we said we want to do soundtrack stuff. Imagine we were given like a script or something like that, and then we had to create the soundtrack for that.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably where some of the influence of this album came from, that we wanted to have a story set to then write to. Which is, like I said, a bit different to what I was saying before, but it's been a different experience for us. And I think with every release, we want to make it a new experience for us and for the listener. The new album is way darker than anything we've done before, which people can probably tell from the new single as well. Kind of took people by surprise a bit. And even with the visuals, like the last video we did before that was moments where it's very serene and very calm. And then suddenly this one, it looks like we're being, like there's some sort of exorcism going on, so it's quite a contrast, but yeah, so we're always open to, what we want to do next. We never give ourselves boundaries, I guess.
No, that's good. That's where you kind of want to be as a musician.
For sure, yeah.
It's sort of, you're doing what you love at that point. And it makes the music better. It makes it more enjoyable for you as well, because you can get to a point where you're kind of going through motions, I suppose, when you're playing out or whatever, or talking about certain things, but with this, it kind of, you will have people reading it differently, like completely, because it's
even with bands like Mogwai, you listen through each of their records, and obviously you can tell it's a Mogwai record, but still within that there's such big differences as well, and it's kind of nice to look back at a band like that and, say, oh yeah, they've had the, like the rave tapes, kind of part of their discography. And then they've had, which has been more electronic, obviously. And then some older stuff, which is a bit more post-rocky. And you kind of see how they've grown and not kept stuff just the same throughout their career.
Yeah.
And I think something like that really excites me to think about, that we don't have to just commit to one thing. We can really do whatever we want. And I guess being this size as well, we're not a massive band at all, but like, I guess we don't really have any sort of what's the word? Like no one else telling us what we need to do or what we should be doing. Yeah. It's just much our own, way of being. So we're very excited about that at the moment.
Excellent. No, it's good, especially if a label doesn't want to walk in and sort of take you in a certain direction as well. So I'm assuming you have that with... Is it Dunk Records you're with at the moment? Yeah, so just signed to Dunk Records for this, and it's been really amazing to work with them so far. Cool. Just a really, really good team, and like they're very committed to the art as well, and like the physical side of things as well, which we've always been really passionate about. I guess it's always been a dream for us to have like, music on vinyl and stuff like that, and obviously we were, lucky enough to have Where It All Began put on vinyl through Crooked Noise Records. But very much with Dunk, they kind of said to us, like, what do you want? And then, they pretty much said, let us know exactly what you want, and then we'll tone it back if we need to. And we went to them with exactly what we want, and they said, sweet, let's do it. So that was like an absolute dream for us. So we're very excited for people to receive the physical copies, because we put a lot of work into it. And obviously for the concept as well, it really means a lot to be able to have someone behind that's as passionate about it as us. Yeah, it's good. I did look on the Dunk Records website, and I see they do their own pressings and stuff like that, which is very nice. I'm a bit of a vinyl I don't know what they call them, a vinylist, I don't know. Being a sort of old school DJ and everything, I love having vinyl. I've got stacks of it everywhere. So it's I say old school DJ, it's coming back now, isn't it, all the vinyl? But, I'm cool again. No, but yeah, no, I was just like, that does look really nice, especially when they do all the hand pressing and everything like that. I was sort of reading up on that. I was like, that's going to be amazing. And especially your music, your sort of music on vinyl as well. It's just one of those things that just gives it that extra level of noise,
a character to it. And I guess there's that appreciation for the music as well, because I guess at the end of the day, like, a CD is great, but it is just the digital file you're listening to. Well, I guess with a record, I mean, as many people obviously know, like, it's, I guess, the actual vibration that you're listening to, I guess, if that makes sense. And even something about owning something physical from a band, I think, a vinyl is so much more special than just a CD, because I guess it's the analog form of it, right? It is.
I mean, literally, the music is cut into a piece of
exactly
whatever you're getting it cut into. I usually call it wax, but it's whatever the material that they're using. but the music is physically cut into it, whereas like a CD, it's kind of just it's burnt onto it essentially.
Yeah, exactly. It's binary at that point.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, I like I say, I'm a vinyl like person. I'm a scratch DJ, so I like to.
Oh, amazing!
I like to break vinyl as well, so, and lots of needles. But yeah, it's just that's going to be really cool. I'm most likely going to pick that up as well.
I appreciate that
on that front because, like I say, I do. If I really like music, the music that I hear, I do buy the record if they do have it. So.
Yeah, definitely.
But
I appreciate that. Though.
Has your just with what's going on in the world at the moment, has your like production or anything seen any delays or anything like that, or is your label kind of like keeping on top of it?
In terms of production for the vinyl and stuff, no, because I mean obviously Dunk Records are pressing it themselves, so we're going to make sure that everything goes out on time. We had a little bit of a worry about the merch that we were doing because we had a lot of the stuff printed, but still a few things needed to come through.
Yeah,
and trying to sort that at the moment was quite tough, but luckily we've figured it out, so we don't have to worry about that.
Cool.
But the big hit that we have had is in terms of shows. Obviously everything's been delayed, and even originally we were saying, okay, let's delay it to June. Even that's going to suck because it's a few months behind and we're not going to be able to celebrate the album with everyone, but it won't be too bad. And then no one was booking anything until September, which is looking like at the moment. But even then, it's like we really don't know what could happen, obviously. And we don't want to feel too sorry for ourselves because at the end of the day, everyone is going through what we're going through, any band
exactly.
goes. Yeah. And luckily it hasn't hit us too bad financially, if any, to be honest. It's just been the show thing. So I really do feel for, you know, the music industry on that sense, and anyone who works in the industry, you know, we really do feel for. So yeah, we're just keeping our heads high and kind of trying to make it a positive. You know, it means that because I do a lot of the sorting out the artwork and stuff like that, you know, kind of making sure the templates are good and stuff like that, and all the social media stuff. So it means I've been able to just commit to that rather than having to worry about anything else.
Yeah.
So it's a blessing in disguise in that sense, but equally, yeah, it's a bit of a rubbish time for anyone in the music industry.
It's all about adapting, really. I mean, I've obviously this time for me is good because like a lot of you guys are at home, so I can catch you guys like with very little to do, but at the same time, I've noticed there's a lot of proactivity with a lot of the sort of bands I've been speaking to. With actually catching up on sort of more the admin side or the social media side of things, so they can actually be fully prepared for when that album comes out. Yeah, you know, because normally the live show would take precedent over everything because that's your thing, that's your art form. Some bands, if they're big enough, have people to do the social media stuff for them, but a lot of the ones I speak to generally they like to do it themselves. So.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's about just making most of this time, really, because it's a weird era to be in, and everyone is in the same boat. So
yeah, like I guess no one's ever experienced something like this where you're literally, you know, everyone's quarantined and you know things have just been cancelled, and you know, and even going back to I guess feeling sorry for musicians and stuff, people that have had to cancel shows and lose out financially on a lot of stuff can be a big hit, but. Yeah, hopefully in this time that people are stopped, they, I guess, have more time to not worry about the finance side and care more about the art and the the passion behind it. And hopefully at the end of this, loads of new bands will have loads of music to release as well. I was
going to say it's going to spawn plenty of material, like not just music. It's going to spawn a lot of different art forms, which is going to be absolutely magnificent, I hope, when we come out of this. So, what I was going to ask you. Obviously, you're down in Kent. What's the? I have relatives down that way, so I go down there relatively often. But what's the scene like down there?
Well, to be honest, I mean, recently it's been really, really good. I mean, it wasn't the same 5 years ago. It was kind of a bit dead, and there was a big scene when we were much younger in Margate. But yeah, recently over the last couple of years, we've had a lot of people moving down from London, which is bringing a lot of money into the area. A lot of new venues opening up, and Dreamland, which is kind of the local, I don't know, it's kind of like not a theme park, or maybe it is a theme park. They have rides and stuff. Kind of a fun fair, yeah, but they have a lot of events going on. So famously, they had Gorillaz do a day festival here. We've had Mac DeMarco here, Frank Gardner and Rattlesnakes. And then in the more local kind of scene, we've got like a really amazing venue called Elsewhere, which is in Margate, and they're constantly putting on loads of shows, supporting local bands, bringing bands from around the country that, you know, want to try and get down this way or want to play a show in London and then want a show close after. So it's really convenient for that. So yeah, like I said, over the last 2 years, it's been really good, which is great for us as well, because we can really feel like a new creative buzz going on in the area. And even in the sense of not just music, but I think creatives with art and stuff like that has been really good. And like I said earlier, like I shoot videos and stuff myself, and I'm fully self-employed doing that. So it's nice to be surrounded by other kind of like-minded people in that sense as well.
Yeah, that's really good.
So yeah, which has worked out really well for us, because just as we've come of, I guess, the age to, you know, where you kind of strive to have that sort of buzz around you, and instead of moving to somewhere like London or Brighton or Bristol, it means that we can kind of stick around here and be at the forefront of it, rather than move into somewhere else where it's already quite saturated.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. No, that's awesome. I'm talking like almost 15 years ago, I was in a band, and we played a few shows down the Kent Way.
Yeah.
And they were good shows, to be honest with you. And I was just curious of how, you know, what it's like now. And obviously it went off a little bit and then sort of has come back. And I know you've got like the Rambling Man Festival and stuff down that way as now, I think. Yeah,
there's a couple of good things that do go on. I mean, even like, just to mention another venue as well, we've got the Booking Hall in Dover. Okay. And that's doing really well as well. And obviously that's in Dover, so it's really convenient for bands who are heading into Europe. You know, it's like the last stop. But yeah, no, like I said, it's really good. And over the last couple of years, it's just been buzzing. So, and it's only going up as well. You know, it's not slowing down.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which is great.
Cool. I'm going to look for shows down that way, because like I said, I've got relatives down that way, so always go down. They're based like Erith way.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So it's like
it always seems like anyone that we'd say that we're from Margate or at least South East Kent, someone always says, "Oh yeah, I've got a relative there," or "I've got someone from there." So it's funny how many people actually have connections to Kent.
Yeah, I used to go down to Herne Bay a lot as a kid.
Oh,
as well.
Bay, yeah, just up the road from us. Yeah,
they used to have a sports centre on a pier.
I think I know where you're on about, actually. Yeah,
it's no longer there, I don't think. But
I know the piers still.
Yeah, I used to play a sport that the Herne Bay, well, they've still got a team actually. They play at the new sports centre, whatever that is. But I used to go down there and play sports on many a Sunday at that venue. And,
right, fair enough.
Yeah, so I know it relatively is. I played in the arcades across the road and everything. So,
of course, yeah.
You know, when you're down by the seaside, you got to do that. So
that's it. Ice cream on the beach and spend a few quid in the arcades.
Yes, exactly that. Exactly. More than a few quid, though. So
yeah.
Cool. So I just want to bring up, before we talk about your album in a bit more depth, I came across a cover you did last year.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I was wondering if you wouldn't mind talking about that. It was the Kate Bush cover, Running Up That Hill. What was the what was the story behind that?
Well, I mean, to be honest, it was obviously coming out of Where It Began, that had been out for over a year, and we kind of felt like, obviously the album was already in its works, in the works, sorry, and we just wanted something out just as a treat for fans, I guess. You know, we obviously not going to financially gain from it or anything. We just wanted to do something a bit different, just to bridge the gap, I guess. And originally it was Max and Geordie started to talk about it, and then took the idea to me. And I was, if I'm honest, and I eat my words now, I actually really didn't like the original.
Okay.
And I just, you know, I'd listened to it a few times, and obviously I'd heard it before, but just tried to figure out how we were going to do it, and just really couldn't get on board with it. And the guys just kept going on about it. And I was like, all right, do you know what? Let's all try and write it, you know, in our individual ways, and see if we can collaborate writing-wise to try and figure out what we can do with it. And over the space of a couple of months, we kind of pulled it together, and then ended up really enjoying the song, you know, listening to the original and the version we had done. And then it all kind of came together, and we're all really happy with it. You know,
it's a really good cover. It's like it's.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
It's I was going to say, along with your album, the album track Collapse that I listened to, it's a real like a step up, not only in production but I think structure as well.
It was quite hard in that sense. I think that was probably the biggest challenge for us, really, because it would be quite easy to just take kind of the song and directly cover it. We actually decided to call it an interpretation instead of a cover, because we're not necessarily taking it and then just playing it in our own style. We're kind of we definitely, dissected it and figured out what we wanted to do with each part and how we wanted the structure to lay. And even like the first verse, we were like, what? The vocal is the main part of it, but obviously we don't have vocals. So in the verse, me and Geordie between us have guitar lines that kind of follow the vocal line instead of having any sort of like rhythm. And then when it comes to the chorus, we're like, well, at the end of the day, it's such an iconic line. Let's just sing it. And, because a few people had said to us like, oh, but you're instrumental, you're post-rock, you shouldn't really be singing. And to be honest, we just see it as if we can put vocals on it, it's just acting as another instrument, as another layer, or, so, and obviously it's vocoded slightly as well. Yeah. Because we're not that good at singing. But, we just felt that was a nice addition, and it kind of pays homage back to the original as well. And then we also just wanted to end it in a way that was going to slightly hint at what the new album's going to be. So obviously we end in just a nice heavy drop. Yep. We're really happy with it. It's nice to have that in the, for people to discover, I guess.
Yeah, no, I definitely discovered it. So
I appreciate that you like it anyway.
That's all good. So let's now talk your album. Like let's sort of dig deep into that a little bit. So it's called The Cataclysm. And it is out on the 17th of April. And you've released a track called Collapse, which is out now on all the sort of streaming services and whatnot. Tell us a bit more about the album. Obviously, I listened to Collapse, and it is a step up. I said it before, a step up in production. So it sounds bigger. I don't know who you had. Are you self-produced, or did you have someone at the helm for this one?
No, so it was on the last records we've used Ian Sadler at Emmeline Studios in Whitstable. Okay, and we've always loved working with Ian, but for this record because we were going heavier with it, we felt we were going to go to a heavier producer. So that was Lewis Johns at the Ranch, who's done, I guess, bands like Conjurer, for example. So a lot heavier than us, but when we listened to a few bands that he had done, including, I guess, like Rolo Tomasi, like I said, Conjurer, they're heavy bands, but still have a really crisp, kind of clean sound to it as well, without sounding too messy. So going with him, it was a pleasure to work with him. He's got such an amazing ear for, like, for example, the drums. Like, the second we heard, like, what sort of sounds he was creating for the album, Max already had a good idea of how he wanted the drums to sound, and referenced even like an old Paramore album where they used like a Q kit for it, which is almost like a poppy sound, but we wanted to mix that in with the, how heavy the album was going to be. Working with him was, really amazing. And we just wanted that heavy sound to come across without it being too messy or, I guess, oversaturated with like distortion or reverb or anything. So we went with him. In terms of, I guess, writing style, like I said, it was very heavily based on the concept, and the concept is a cataclysm. It's about split into two sides actually, which is the flooding of the world and the burning of the earth.
Nice.
And they're kind of, we looked a lot into different theories that people have had before and different events that have happened. For example, there's one, I guess you call him a pseudoscientist called Graham Hancock, who had this theory about this comet hitting the world 13,000 years ago. And creating this massive flood, and and everything kind of set on fire. I won't get too deep into it, but just the idea of that, we thought if we could do some sort of soundtrack for that, it would be it'd be an amazing thing to kind of work off. And then another kind of influence as well was this poem that we heard, which is called The Darkness by Lord Byron. Okay. And that was written in the, I think, 1900s. It was 18 something. And that was written at a time when a volcano had erupted in, I believe it was South America somewhere. And pretty much the ash cloud kind of covered the whole of Europe and put Europe into this really long winter, and the sky was always dark, and people were, all the kind of creatives and artists and poets at the time were writing like it was the end of the world. And we took influence from that, once again, to kind of write something about the end of the world. And that poem is actually included on the album as well. I won't explain how it is or where it is. I guess that's for everyone to discover, but we definitely, like I've said a few times, really enjoyed writing to that concept. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how people discover that through either what we're sharing or through their own interpretation or just through the visuals and, the music videos that we've got planned. And also through the theatrics that we're going to bring live as well. Like, obviously in the video, we have these, boiler suits with all these icons that we created for the album.
Yeah.
And each icon signifies each track on the album. So that's, once again, something to do with the concept that we just really want to visually represent. So, yeah.
Excellent. Well, I'm looking forward to that. I mean,
I appreciate
the
that,
concept alone, I'm like, yeah, that's the kind of stuff I like to listen to. So,
yeah. That's good.
So where does Collapse feature on the album? Is it like the opening, or is it?
Collapse isn't actually a song, to be honest. It's
okay. I'll see.
Yeah, it was. Oh no, sorry, Collapse. No, sorry, I thought you said Cataclysm. Collapse
no.
is. Yeah, sorry. Collapse is the second track.
Second. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So the album's split into two.
Yeah.
Which, like I said, is the flooding of the world with burning in earth, and each side starts with those, title tracks.
Okay.
And then from there, the track listing continues through the narrative of the narrative of the album. So Collapse comes second, which is almost the first hint at, all the destruction and the darkness that is to come from the rest of the album.
Okay.
While the flooding of the world starts a bit lighter and then slowly introduces the darker side.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it's definitely something that I think I'm really looking forward to people listening to it, but especially if anyone's listening and they're looking forward to the album, I would just say, try and listen to it front to back, nice and loud without blowing your ears out. Because I think that's definitely, from me listening to it a few times, obviously I think that's the best way to listen to it. And not to say the cliche of listening to an album front to back really loud, but I honestly think that that's the best way that the album's going to be experienced.
Yeah,
I guess.
I mean, that's how you've sort of written it and sort of curated it as well.
Definitely.
So,
yeah,
it's there to give, as a guide at least for the people to listen to. I mean, I'm an album person as well, so I do listen to albums from sort of start to finish.
Yeah.
Even if they are just sort of like singles upon singles.
That's it, yeah.
Because
I hate it when someone says, I mean, especially with Where It All Began, especially a couple of people had said that they had listened to it but on shuffle. But Where It All Began is a continuous album, so there's no gaps in the album other than in the middle when you're supposed to obviously flip the vinyl over.
Yeah.
So if someone said that they've listened to it on shuffle, I'm just like, what? You've listened to the same amount of songs, but just on shuffle. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
It's like we put so much work into figuring out where the tracks need to be.
Yeah.
For someone to put on shuffle is just a bit of a kick in the backside, I guess.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a method to it. I mean, it's sort of like with the sort of shuffle thing that came out, I guess that sort of changed the way a lot of people listen to music. But,
yeah, for sure.
It's nice to sort of like have bands still creating albums rather than... it's quite good to go out and, make your own sort of like single after single, which one's going to get released, and then just like other tracks on there. But when you've actually got a concept, when you've got something to work with, something to sort of give you a guide at least, even if it's
very much like puzzle pieces of like a bigger picture, really.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'm definitely, I'm definitely going to pick that up. So you've got at least one sale through me, so that's good. So I've got a couple of questions left for you. These are more sort of aimed generally about yourself rather than the band. This first one is basically, what are your three top albums that kind of have influenced you in the way that the musician that you've become, or artist that you've become, and person that you've become?
I think the first one that I can definitely think of would be Hybrid Theory from Linkin Park.
Yep.
I think that just as a record, at the time when I was first discovering what heavy music was, I guess it was probably the first time I heard a distorted guitar. And I remember it just being so mind-blowing about, how cleverly it's written and the intensity of some of the songs. So I definitely think that's a big one. And especially like the simplicity of some of the riffs, but how good it can sound. Second one, maybe along the same lines, I guess that kind of industrial or kind of nu metal kind of sound would be Mutter by Rammstein.
Cool.
Especially because I remember going back to Linkin Park, buying the Live in Texas DVD and just being absolutely blown away by how good it sounded and kind of looked as a live show, and then discovering Rammstein and seeing a next level to music videos and live shows and, you know, pyro and just, you know, and it really blew my mind, and really, I guess that excites you to think, oh, you know, one day we'll be able to do something like that. And I think that's an influence behind our live show as well.
Cool.
In the terms of, you know, we use all our own lights and make sure it's all kind of in sync. And we've taken that to the next level with the next album as well, which once again, I won't give away, but people can come and experience that if they want. And I think third, I guess probably Ascendancy by Trivium. Cool. Maybe because of that, I think that's still my favorite album ever. And I think it's Max's as well. And I know Geordie is a massive fan as well. It's just one of those albums that you first listen to, is so heavy and so, you know, in your face, and it just doesn't get old. And even today I've been playing for a load of the songs just because I'm kind of bored. And it's really fun to play. And, you know, when we were younger, it's kind of like, oh, I'd love to be able to play that. And now we're kind of, I guess, talented enough to be able to, you know, play stuff like that. And it's still as good as it, you know, as it was when I first listened to it. So yeah, I'd say those three for sure.
Cool. Excellent. Thank you for that. That was good. I've got all those albums, so that's good. I've had some sort of like more classic musicians on the show, and there's a lot of albums I'd never heard of, and but no, these ones I actually own and have. So it's all good, and I can't believe Hybrid Theory is 20 years old. Not to stick an age on it, but it's it
makes us feel old, doesn't it?
It does. It's madness. So my final question, what are your hobbies away from music? So when you're not doing anything band-wise or anything on the visual side of things, what do you do to kind of unwind?
Well, I mean, like I briefly mentioned earlier on, I'm like a videographer, so I shoot music videos and also tour with other bands creating visuals live for like photography and videos and stuff. And, you know, luckily I do that as my passion and my job. So a lot of the time that's what I'm doing if I'm not, you know, doing band stuff.
Okay.
Which is either, you know, being on tour with bands or shooting music videos. So yeah, very, very much that. I'm, you know, love what I do, and luckily I get to do it if I'm getting paid or not getting paid. So yeah, and, you know, I mean, last year was pretty filled with that. It started off the year with Bring the Horizon, doing some stuff for them, and then the rest of the year was with Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes, who I just want to do a shout out for. Just the loveliest guys, and just such an amazing band to do visuals to, because they just put 200% into every show.
Excellent.
And are just so committed to what they do. And, you know, like I said, lovely guys. And it's a really great team as well. So, yeah, and I should really be doing some stuff with them coming up, but obviously everything's been cancelled. So, you know, I should be seeing them at the end of the year, I think.
Cool.
So, yeah, that's what I get up to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool. Nick, thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate your time and everything, and good luck with the album and whatnot.
Thank you very much.
I hope the sort of downtime is fruitful for you, and you know, you stay safe and all that kind of good stuff. But and I'm going to try and catch you guys live and stuff when you guys are out and about.
Thank you very much.
Because I think it's something I'd really enjoy. I really love those sort of, well, like I say, I love that type of music, and the way you've sold it to me. And if you've got visuals going on,
there we go.
That's even better. So
thank you. I really appreciate that, mate.
No worries, man.
Nice one. Cool. Thanks again.
Cool. Have a good rest of your day, mate. Cheers.
You too. Bye.